Hello and welcome. We are live again for an episode of the Person Behind the Profile series. Today I have with me Felicity Furey. How are you, Felicity?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Look, this series I love because it gets to know the people behind the profile here on LinkedIn and also other social media profiles as well. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube too. So thanks so much for joining me, Felicity. I was really excited to bring you on because, I know you're a leadership coach, and I think we've had a few conversations together around NextGen Leadership and what that really means. And so I was really excited to dive into that topic with you today. For anyone that is joining us, make sure to let me know. We'd love to hear where you're from. Let us know the country and the city where you're from. We've got Annan here. Great. Awesome. If you are catching the replay, just pop #replay below and let's get stuck in. So Felicity, give us a little insight about you. If someone was to just come across your profile, they can obviously have a read, but give us your 30-second little, elevator pitch, if you like, so we can get to know you.
Sure. So I have kind of three buckets of things that I do: educator, an engineer, and entrepreneur. So if you've driven on a road in Brisbane, Sydney, or Melbourne, you might have driven on a road that I helped build when I was an engineer. And I'm also really about getting girls and diversity into the engineering profession. So that led me to starting a few different businesses to inspire the next generation, and has led me to my most recent business, We Aspire, which is helping the next generation of leaders progress their career and take the lift rather than the corporate ladder that we're so used to.
I love that. There's so many things in there that I know you and I could talk for days on this topic. It's something that's really dear to our hearts. So I guess when it comes to, that sort of transition in your career, I know for a lot of young people, you start out, you get some experience, you build your skills, and then sometimes you end up finding yourself in a leadership role, whether you've actually really purposely gone for that yourself and you've really pushed to get there, or sometimes it just kind of happens. And it kind of just lands in your lap. And then next minute you're like, oh, now I need to know how to manage and lead a team. So what do you think are some of the challenges and some of the problems that young leaders are facing, in the world that we're living in today?
I think our world is very uncertain and complex, which can then bring up a lot of fear around where do we go, what do we do, what's the plan? And the reality is you're never going to know all the answers. You're never going to have that information. So for me, what I look at and what I train leaders in is starting with leading yourself first. So what are your core beliefs, your standards actually, rather than talking about values. I think standards is actually more important than your values, and looking at what are your goals and where do you want to go, and having that kind of future in mind as you're going about your career. Then once you've got that clear for yourself, then you can help other people on their journey. And that's one of the first things I ask people about when they come on my team is, where do you want to go? What's your plan to get there? So start with yourself first.
Yeah, I really love that, because sometimes, leadership is very much, if you're a servant leader, it's all about, really serving others. And I think it's really important to have that level of self-awareness. So I love that you sort of say lead with yourself first. We've got a few people joining us. We've got May from the Philippines. We've got Sanil. We've got Mohammed. We've got Shaba. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Felicity, one of the things that I know is pretty contentious, right? Because I do some speaking on this as well in terms of the millennial generation and, how are we ever going to be able to attract and engage and retain this generation, and also, really accelerate their leadership skills and their progress as a leader too. So when we're talking about sort of the different generations, what are you seeing in terms of some of the differences with younger leaders today versus maybe some leaders that have, been in the game for a long time?
I think they're two really different perspectives, and I think we definitely can't discount the, say, more mature generations. And I love this idea called the wisdom worker. They have so much knowledge that we can leverage and use. And I think leadership and working today is actually about everyone partnering and working together and collaborating rather than one generation versus the other. So I think for our wisdom workers at the one end of the spectrum, there's so much knowledge they can impart on young people. And then I love this idea of the reverse mentoring too, where young people, the new generation of millennials, have a lot to offer the wisdom workers. So I think it's around understanding, understanding yourself and where your strengths are and where do you want to take your career and who can you partner with and collaborate. And in my experience, I've found actually there's a lot that as a young person I can offer some of my mentors. So I've got time, I've got a lot more of that available. So their personal goals, like getting women into engineering, I can actually go help them achieve that. And they can open doors for me, like get me in front of other CEOs or in networks that they have. So you'd be surprised as a young leader how much you can offer the more senior generations as well. So it's a real partnership.
Yeah, I love that, because I think, it is an integrated approach. It's not about, one generation's better than the other or anything like that. It is about how can we actually work together, because we do have up to 5 different generations in the workforce now. So it can be a little bit tricky, when everyone's coming from different perspectives and different mindsets as well, based on just your own personal experiences. So I think that's really great as well. And I'd love to hear from you if you're listening to this as well. Let us know what generation you belong to. Do you belong to the baby boomers? Do you belong to Generation X? Are you a millennial? Or maybe you're even a Generation Z as well, because I know they're now 10% of the workforce coming through. So I'd love to know where you sit in terms of the generations too. And you mentioned sort of a wisdom worker there. I think that's a really good way to put it as well, because I think we can learn from each other, and that reverse mentoring you said is absolutely crucial too. So what do you think are some things that younger leaders, sort of when they're entering into the workforce, what are some things that they can actually do to maybe accelerate their progress?
There's a lot of different things that we can do. And I used to think that I'd be a leader when I got the title of leader, when I had, CEO or decades of experience, or maybe some grey hair or something. That's what a leader was to me. And it certainly has not been my experience. Leadership wasn't appointed to me. It's something that I developed along the way. And I think a lot that young people can learn from, or other people who want to get into leadership roles. And I think it's all around creating your own leadership opportunity. So it could be within your workplace, it could be in a volunteering organisation, an industry body. It's all around stepping out to step up. So you might do things that are above and beyond your day job and take on a little special leadership project that you want to test out. You might ask for some extra responsibility from your manager. Or you could see ways that you could try your leadership out with a special project. So I think it's around manufacturing these opportunities for practice so that you're confident and ready to lead.
Yeah, I think that's great as well, because I think sometimes there's a perception out there for, business owners and other leaders as well that, the sort of millennials and maybe even Gen Z sort of expect everyone to just pander to their needs, and that, it's kind of, they have very high expectations. They do. I know I had very high expectations when I entered the workforce, and then you get in there and you're like, oh, I actually have to work. Oh. So I think, there are a lot of really ambitious millennials, ambitious leaders out there, like you said, that are either, really motivated themselves to go after those opportunities. I think you put that really well in terms of sort of like putting yourself in the way of opportunity and being able to look outside of your role and realizing that you're actually a leader, even if you don't have the title. So I think that's really cool. Now, what are some of the skills? Like if people are listening to this and they are wanting to be they are wanting to develop into a leadership role, or maybe they are in a leadership role already and they're just kind of feeling a bit flat. They're feeling like they're not really performing at their best. What do you think are maybe like the top 3 skills to focus on as a leader to help you really improve?
That is such a great question. And if I only have 3, I'll be very strategic.
Putting you on the spot. If you have 1 or 2, that's good enough for me, Felicity. And the audience can add to as well. Like if you've got some skills that you think is really important as a leader, let us know, because this is a conversation. So we'd love to involve you as well and let us know what skills you think are important.
Absolutely. And there's so much I've learned from other leaders, and that's how we all learn, I think, to be leaders, is from people that we really admire. Yeah. I think a key skill is being authentic, and someone that comes to mind is Michelle Obama. If you've watched her Netflix documentary, she's just incredible. And so I think being authentic to yourself and really embracing your personality. I believe that leaders are made, not born, and any personality, if they really want to get there, they can actually be a leader. The second thing I'd say is communication. And communication is so simplified in just one word, but it really is, I think, the keys to the kingdom when it comes to leadership, communicating your expectations, other people's expectations, and being just really, really clear about that, and being okay to ask questions, and it's okay not to know. The third thing is really, if you're a leader, you're not leading buildings or you're not leading, houses, you're leading people. And so understanding people is incredibly valuable. So whatever you can do to understand people and improve your people skills, I'd say they're the top three things. So hard to pick.
I know. There's so many, all right. And I think once you start to head down this area, and like you said before, it starts with yourself, right? I think having that self-awareness and then being able to know, okay, what are the gaps? And I guess kind of like putting your ego to one side as well and realizing that no one's perfect. We're all human. And so I think sometimes learning what to work on is really great. And I know with, even the last 12 months with COVID, I think communication has been a huge one. Because everyone has had to learn how to communicate a little bit differently, maybe to what they were used to as well. So I think as we start to shift into more of like the digital space, and as we start to shift more, online, we're communicating differently virtually. What sort of challenges has that thrown up for leaders, do you think?
I think a big one is the lack of visibility, particularly of people in your team. And used to be that we just go into the office, you'd go grab a coffee, you'd walk past Jay's desk, you'd go, hey, Jay, how you going? How's your week? You'd get those little insights, or you'd be at the end of a meeting and you'd have a side conversation, or you'd see some expression, or you'd see someone sitting kind of awkwardly at the desk. You'd get these cues about people, and we're missing out on a lot of those. So I think important thing is to really connect with your team. I think one of the great things about COVID is, certainly for me, I was in Melbourne during the lockdowns, and so
poor thing.
It was pretty challenging, especially with a little baby. And I think what it provided, though, was that opportunity to say how you're really going, like really, say, I'm okay today. So I think one of the benefits is that we can actually really express how we're feeling, and people are understanding that. So for people today in this digital age, I think it's important that we're reaching out, and in whatever communication style works for you, whether it's a quick text message and thinking of you, message on LinkedIn, or sending them a quick phone call on your morning walk. We've got to create some points with our colleagues and with our leaders as well, so that we're getting that visibility with them.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I think, it's so funny how you don't even realize sometimes, but I even remember when I worked in sales years and years ago, like you used to just be able to pick up and learn from others when you sort of observe them or watch them or listen to them on the phone or however they interacted. And you kind of miss out on that, when it's in your virtual space, when you're sort of working from home. So I think that's really important, like you said, to still stay connected as a leader to your teams as well, which is great. And as we sort of think about like where we're heading, the future of work, like I hear all of the time, like robots are going to steal our jobs and, we should be really afraid. Like, what are some of the things do you think that we've got to look forward to when it comes to like the future of work and the future of leadership?
Well, I'm looking forward to my self-driving car. I think that was supposed to happen in 2020 and they've missed the boat there. I think it's a really exciting time. I think it's the best time to be a leader, to be running a business, to be getting your ideas out there. Technology isn't the answer, it's absolutely the pathway. And so it enables things like online businesses for you to work remotely. Right now, I've got a role in Melbourne and I'm splitting my time between Melbourne and the Sunshine Coast. And that's been really amazing to facilitate that and have something that really works for my family. So I think that there's so many opportunities that come with this access to technology. And I think it's all around using it as a tool and understanding the problem that you're solving. I think it's very easy to come up with a fancy tech solution when really we could have just picked up the phone and had a conversation with another human rather than doing something really fancy like we're going to schedule a Zoom meeting and you go backwards and forwards on email and then you have the calendar invite, all that stuff when we could have just picked up the phone. So and that's just a very basic example. So I think it's exciting because it means that there's opportunities for us to have better experiences in the workplace, and technology is going to help us rather than get in our way.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd love to hear from people in the audience as well who are listening into this. Like, what are you most excited about when it comes to the future of work and the future of leadership? And we've got some comments here as well saying that some of the skills there are around patience, being authentic, and having interpersonal skills as well, which I think really, really hits the nail on the head there as well. And so, look, I love this conversation around different generations. And, what are your thoughts around, some people that just say, look, there's never really an issue with having different generations. It's not a generational thing. It's more of just like a talent thing and a skills thing. Like, do you really see that there are different perspectives in across the generations when you look at some of the leaders that you're working with? Or do you find that it is like those generic kind of leadership skills that just work across the board with people? Like, what are you seeing?
There's definitely common themes between leaders, and in our program we get very experienced leaders and CEOs. We interview them, we work with our participants, and they share their stories, and it's been fascinating to see some of the things I've experienced on my leadership journey are exactly the same as some of the CEOs who are the people with grey hair and some wrinkles. And that's been fascinating for me because I thought, oh, these are my experiences, are they going to be the same? And there are so many similarities. It's really fascinating. And I think the generational kind of bands give some help to go, okay, what was happening at that point in time? But I think, look, culturally, different things are happening in different countries. So we can't always say that this generation is this way. And I feel like it's quite similar to gender. This comes up a lot, particularly in engineering, where it's like women think this way, or women are good at communicating, or women are more emotional. And I got to say, my husband, he cries more than I do, and he taught me how to be with my emotions.
They all do.
So, I don't really like to stereotype. And there's a great book which is Testosterone Rex, and it talks about the ways that men and women are different and different ways of thinking. She talks about it like this mosaic, like it's a real mix and blend. And I think it's the same when it comes to Cordelia Fine is the author of that book. And it's a real when it comes to generations as well. I don't think we can categorize one or the other. I think it's really understanding people. And there are definitely some common themes, though, around how the workplace is today is really a strong theme that's coming through. And a lot of former generations are being amazing at adapting.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And we've got Sohab that's joined us as well. Thank you, Sohab. It's great to have you here. He says, very well said, Felicity. Technology is the answer and solution to everything now. We have come to realize that communication is the key to be connected digitally with our network connections. A dormant profile will not attract any opportunities. People need to dive straight in. Great show, Amy. Love that, Sohab. So that brings us to another point around like leadership and visibility. And, to your last point, Felicity, I think you're spot on in terms of like we can look at the themes and it's sort of easy to sort of stereotype people, and we can look at it from that top line view, but we need to recognize that there is that individual component to everyone as well, and we can't just sort of paint everyone with the same brush. So I think that's really important, where you start with the themes, but then you have to dive a little bit deeper into understanding the individual as well. So I think that's awesome. And so, when it comes to being a leader, and you mentioned visibility before, and so, visibility can mean like being seen in the office, like you said, where you're just sort of walking through and you get to see your team and the team see you and the team see that you're maybe working. And so when it comes to being online and then being visible as a leader online, do you think that's important as we move through in this digital world?
That is such a good question. And I think there's lots of ways we can be visible without maybe, being physically present on Teams all day. I think it's how do you used to be, what then it's who you know. And I think it's who wakes up thinking about you. And I've got to say, I saw that from my friend Hunter Johnson, who shared that with me. And some people think it's a bit of a scary thought of, oh my gosh, do I want people waking up thinking about me? But you want to be front of mind for opportunities. You want to be front of mind when that leader is sitting in the room and they go, who can fill this next leadership role? And they want to be thinking about you. LinkedIn is a great way, a great strategy for people to be visible. And I get scared every time I press that post button on LinkedIn. And there's a fear that comes up. And I set myself a really little goal ages ago to just post 3 times a week. Just keep it really simple. And it's been incredible, the journey that's taken me on. And the people that I've met that I literally would never meet because I'm posting regularly online. So I think something simple like LinkedIn, and it could even just be, I'm going to comment 3 times a week on people's posts. It gets a message out there, and you actually not just get visible, but you can build really incredible and deep relationships, I think. From something that I just feel is so simple, post online 3 times a week. I'm sure you can attest to that, Amy, with your amazing experience in LinkedIn and helping people with that.
Yeah, absolutely back you up on that. I think, it's about putting yourself in the way of opportunity, like we spoke of before. So I think I even shared a post today around, if you want something different, you have to do something different sometimes as well. And sometimes it is about having the courage to step out there and maybe do something that you might have felt was a little bit outside of the box only a few years ago. So I think that's great to sort of know that your experience has been a positive one when it comes to sharing things on LinkedIn as well. And I'd love to hear from people as well in the comments. We've got a few here. We've got May says diversity and flexibility are some of the things I get to enjoy now. And I think this is also part of the future of work. Love that, May. Absolutely agree with you there. I think we are heading into a world of flexibility where working from home is now just the norm. It's the expectation even for a lot of people too. So I think that's absolutely fabulous. Now, when it comes to the engineering space, Felicity, I know there's many different things like leadership crosses all different industries and things. But when it comes to the engineering space specifically, because I know that's where your focus really is, what are some of the real key things that are helpful for leaders in that particular industry?
Well, engineers are not known for their communication, so I'll just put that out there. But there are some excellent communicators. So I would say I put myself in that category of there are amazing people out there. So there are a lot of stereotypes I think about engineers, but I think we're uniquely placed to solve problems, and we are trained from day one how to analyze, how to think through ideas, and how to solve these problems. And for me, it's actually been a bit of the toolkit that has got me to start my businesses. I said, there's a problem to get women into engineering. How can you go solve challenge, and then use the engineering skills and the design thinking process to get there? And I've had a lot of fails in business. There's been lots of things that haven't worked out, and so that mindset of it's an experiment and we can keep trying and try again. And I love the story of James Dyson, who invented the cyclonic vacuum cleaner. He did 5,128 prototypes before he got the one over 18 months. So that's 9 experiments per day. So that he had, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of an engineer is incredibly powerful. And I think we can bring that to leadership. You might have a conversation that didn't go the way you wanted it to go. You might try an idea. You might put yourself out there. You might do a post on LinkedIn that didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. And just cool, it's an experiment. And I think that we can pair the two together, engineering and leadership, to have some great results.
Yeah. I think that's great. It comes down to problem solving. And I think, as a leader, you are continually problem solving a lot of the time with your team in order to hit your objectives and your targets as well. And so I think, engineers are already pretty wired to do that, which is great.
I'm biased, of course, but yes, you're right.
That's very biased.
Of course, that engineers make amazing numbers, but yes.
Of course. Well, I was never a numbers person, so I could never have been an engineer. I think they do amazing work. So that's really cool. Felicity, this has been an awesome discussion. These Person Behind the Profiles episodes are designed to jam-pack a bunch of value into a short amount of time. And I think we've achieved that today. You've shared some really great insights around leadership, the future of leadership, the generational differences that we have when it comes to leadership, and what we can look forward to moving forward in this digital world. So thank you so much for joining me, Felicity.
Thanks so much. Amazing questions. You've really got me thinking tonight as well.
I'm here to put the pressure on. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Let us know what you think about this conversation. I would love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to go and connect with Felicity. You can find her on LinkedIn, of course. Look out for her 3 posts that she does every week too. Now I'm holding you accountable to that. This has been awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And if you're on the replay, let me know too. And next week, I have a very special guest coming up for you as well. I have Paul that's joining me. And Paul was in charge of running one of the biggest recruitment companies in the Southern Hemisphere. So I'm really looking forward to having Paul on next week with me. And until then, we'll see you soon.